Nigerians are celebrating the judgment of the Supreme Court invalidating the stance of the federal government on the use of old naira notes, a policy that brought untold hardship on the people. A 7-member panel of the Apex Court, led by Honorable Justice John Okoro, unanimously directed that the Central Bank of Nigeria must continue to receive the old notes of 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira from Nigerians. Reacting to this development, a socio-political organization, the Social Rehabilitation Gruppe, has hailed the ruling of the Apex Court and frowned on what it describes as the reluctance of the federal government to obey the order of the highest court in the land. Convener of the group, Dr. Marindoti Oludare, says it is worrisome that days after the Supreme Court's judgment, the federal government is yet to obey the verdict. The group advised that President Muhammadu Buhari, Attorney General, and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, as well as the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, must be held in contempt as deterrents for future presidents. It added that there was no justification retaining the judicially quashed monetary policy since the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Tinubu had indicated that he would review it. Well, joining us via Zoom from the U.S. is the convener, Social Rehabilitation Grace and Support Initiative, Dr. Marindoti Oludare. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Right. Well, your concerns, it seems a majority of Nigerians share in your concern with regards to the president and the Apex Bank, that's the CBN, not speaking or reacting to that judgment. But then again, some might even say that perhaps the president is taking his time to look at, the conditions and before he makes his decision. What do you say to that?
Well, I first have to say that their silence is deafening. The president has no other time to take to consider a decision after the Supreme Court has given a judgment. It must be complied with. And it's not like there are no other mechanisms. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said the Supreme Court is the weakest of the three arms of government because it lacks neither the sword or the purse. But there's another arm of government, which is the legislators that have power over the president. And the legislators were put in there because the founders of the American-style democracy, which is what we copy, did not want a king. And I can give an example in history when President Nixon did not want to release the Watergate tapes, the White House tapes. It was senators from his own political party, like Barry Goldwater, that went to meet him and told him, if you do not release these tapes, we are going to impeach you. And that was how he released the White House tapes that led into the Watergate investigation that eventually led to his resignation for fear of being impeached. So we have senators from the president's political party who have not made it hidden that they do not support this policy. So they can let the president know. Senators don't have to be, the legislators don't have to be stooges of the executive. They can let the president know this is the constitutional provision. This is gross misconduct. You cannot disobey the Supreme Court. This is no longer 1984. We are running a constitutional democracy. And if you don't do it, we are going to have to take these steps. And I'm pretty sure no president wants to be impeached because it is an impeachable offense in my own concern. The president-elect, and this is one of my first concerns when they came up with this policy, because Nigeria is a country, is a continuum. Nigeria is going to continue beyond this administration. So when they were coming up with the policy 6-9 months to the sunset of the administration, did they consider what the interest of the next administration is going to be? Are they trying to give an albatross to the next administration to have to carry along with it? So they never considered the next administration. Now the president-elect had indicated that both currencies, old and new, should be in circulation. So I don't understand why there is a delay. Yes, definitely, I do believe that with what had already occurred, the Attorney General of the Federation, the CBN governor, and even the president, when his term is over, should be held in contempt of court, because whether the court likes it or not, a precedent is being set. Yes, we can say that a lot of presidents have disobeyed court orders in the past, but there's going to be a time where the court needs to put its foot on the ground that you cannot do this. We're not going to jail anybody. You can give suspended sentences, but this is contempt of court. This is just the way. This is just the rule. So that is my own opinion about it. I don't understand why they have not given. I mean, it should be automatic in a sane environment. So maybe we are still hoping that maybe they're giving an hidden instructions to the banks, and people can get out to their ATMs today and start withdrawing the old notes, because I don't understand the ends of this what's it called right now. They used to claim that the politicians in quote were the ones hiding the money. Well, we've had the rounds of elections. Are the monies available right now? I'm pretty sure if the politicians had it, they would have used it during the last election. So that also goes to the fact that a lot of their reasons are falling on its face. The economic reason is bonkers. The line that the banks or the politicians are the ones hiding the money has also gone to flats right now. So they should just release the money. They cannot withhold over 77% of the cash in circulation and think that they are not going to cause untold hardship to trade and economy of the country. The new administration is going to be inheriting a terribly, terribly weakened economy in the first place. They put the economy with their naira and multiple exchange policy on its knees. They should not perform a coup de grace on the economy by depriving the people of their money. The people have survived thus far. There's no need to further tighten the screw on suffering Nigerians and Nigeria businesses. I can only implore the government, the executive arm, to follow the what's called Supreme Court order, but also the legislative arm needs to pull its own weight, because they have made it known that they are not in support of this, and they should let the president know in clear terms: we can impeach you if you don't obey the Supreme Court order. That is my own humble opinion. Maybe it's because, like I said, maybe it's because I'm young and I'm ruthless, but I feel like we should follow the way things are supposed to be. That's the only way we bring sanity into our environment. People are
It's,
suffering. I
it
spoke to a friend
seems
of mine.
it seems that even this policy of cash crunch is supposed to stop corruption, but from what we saw, it seems that it made corruption even cheaper and easier, because people were collecting in the last election 200 naira instead of probably much more than that. So it looks as if the thing was counterproductive.
Very, very. I mean, what more corruption is worse than when you have to pay 2,000 naira to withdraw 10,000 naira in the same country when you are not buying, you're not into forex? What more corruption is worse than the hoarding of money? And what they've not even thought about is the fact that they've actually created a false or a quasi form of hoarding right now. Because if I gave you 10,000 naira new notes right now, Mr. Sam, you are not going to want to spend it because you don't know where the next one is coming from. So if you want to buy Guguru or Ekpa in traffic, you won't do it. That is a form of hoarding. You are not spending the money that you would have spent on a normal day. So the currency is not circulating. This is the part of what they are called. It's a friend of mine that I spoke with a few hours ago said, I have not seen cash in weeks. I can't even imagine how someone whose money is not enough now cannot even have access to money. People who have money have to sometimes beg for transport. I don't understand. It's like, I mean, they've reduced the value of the naira to nothing with their policies. They are now even depriving the people access to that nothing that they have reduced it to. It is something that I don't understand. I don't know how they even sleep at night with their own conscience, because this policy makes no sense. The Supreme Court has given an order right now to June, December 31st of this year. And I have to also applaud the courage of the president-elect, despite all the political, pitfalls that came with him opposing the policy prior to the election. They said they wanted to stop vote buying. We believe that it was aimed at, rallying the people against the ruling party to scuttle the chance of the president-elect. Well, they lost. So what is now the next end game? Please let the people go back normal. Let them have their money. The suffering is too much. Like you said, Mr. Sam, people were now collecting, will now be collecting 200 because they don't even have any money at all. So whatever money they have, they are going to embrace it. So this policy, I don't the the money they printed, the 400 billion, because they've not given, CBN has not given an official figure. But what we heard is that they printed 400 billion extra. The 400 billion plus the 2.3 trillion in value, if converted to dollars, is still less than what was in circulation in 2014, which was 1.46 billion. But the exchange rate was different. So they should let all the money circulate in perpetuity until the new administration makes its own policies. There is no need to put Nigerians through untold suffering. The president can come here and say, I apologize, I didn't mean to cause suffering. Well, you have caused suffering. So instead of apologizing, why don't you end the suffering? We will think about your apologies later. People cannot pay hospital bill. My dad is a doctor. Some people had to leave because they could not have access to their cash and they don't know how to do transfer. It's not everybody in Nigeria that is educated. Some people don't even trust the system because they fear that due to their illiteracy, their level of not illiteracy essentially, even educated people, they just don't want to deal with transfer because they feel they could be hacked and they could have their money, withdrawn away. So they don't even run businesses that way. So you cannot force those people to start using online transaction. So it is just, I just don't know. The inanity of this policy is definitely undoubted, but the suffering is the most important thing. I feel like the people are suffering too much, and the executive arm is just silent. You can't afford to be this insensitive to the suffering of the masses. I just don't get it. So I just hope that the legislative arm of government can definitely step in at this point and have a serious conversation with President Muhammad Buhari and let him know there is a constitutional provision for this. This is gross misconduct. If you do not obey the Supreme Court order, then we will file articles of impeachment and then let's go through it that way if that's what you want. Because sometimes you have to play hardball with someone who is trying to be intransigent, because I think that's what the president is trying to do right now. The
All right.
president-elect, who is going to be inaugurated, is already said he doesn't want this policy.
All right, Mario Donti, the currency redesign is not rocket science anywhere in the world. But for what's happening in Nigeria right now, it looks like it's a space science. It seems like it's something so difficult with the way it is playing out. But what option do you think is open right now to Nigeria, seeing that the Supreme Court has come up with a judgment and the federal government is still silent about this? What option do you think is open?
To the Nigerians, Nigerians are really caught in a very between a rock and a hard place. Nobody wants any form of civil disobedience, especially with the with the current situation, the polity right now, with the elections coming up and all that. It could be easily usurped by crisis actors and political actors just to cause havoc. So that is why the only responsible thing for the government to do is to reverse this policy. I don't understand the persistence, the obstinacy of the current executive arm over this policy. To the point that the president is even apologizing. Please don't apologize. We don't need apology. Just let us have our money back. It is our money. The Nigerian people did an amazing job putting their money back into the banks. And then the government and the CBN did an abysmal job in giving them the new currency. They said they wanted to give people a limit of like 20 or 30,000 per day. If they had access to that, there will be no crisis right now. So why is it so hard to accept that you have failed? It is a little bit of introspection. That is what is needed. It is the same intransigence that kept this current administration to stick to the multiple exchange rate policy all through these 8 years. I can remember Professor Yemi Oshibajo, the vice president, had been against this policy since at least 2016 that I read myself, that it does not make any sense. And they stuck to, and the naira that used to be highly sensitive to the price of oil now became inelastic to the price of oil. The only thing the naira would respond to was whatever the CBN governor said. I could remember personal experience, when the CBN governor said if you buy naira, it's a dollar with naira, it's a crime, I was going to send some money home. I will tell this because I knew the prices were going to go up. And literally it did. I sold the naira for like 800 naira at the time. So this just shows that the policies that they have put in place has crippled the Nigerian economy. So why can't they change it? Is it the same naira double exchange rate policy obstinacy that they are still trying to continue with this naira redesign despite a court order, a Supreme Court order to the contrary? Do they think the Attorney General, I mean, in most clients, if the executive arm of government is refusing to obey a Supreme Court order, the Attorney General will resign and say, like, this is my profession. I cannot afford to be a part of this. So him staying in that position and being silent is also complicity, which I feel like the member of his profession should also deal with that. So, because Nigerians, I mean, nobody wants Nigerians to be on the street right now. The environment is a little bit tense. There's a lot of tension in the environment. It's election season. So the president should just be an elderly man, like he said, he wants to leave a legacy. Well, leave a legacy of not unduly causing harm on Nigerians. There was no need to change the currency in the first place. The currency, what a sensible government would have done was to change the policies that would give the currency a lot more value than it has right now. And especially when you are sunsetting May 29, President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he has already said it. So why can't you, for the sake of posterity, for the sake of your own children, for the sake of Nigeria, let the policy just at least suspend based on what the Supreme Court has said, and let President Tinubu from May 29 start making his own policies and his own decisions? Why do you want to cripple the economy to a comatose, moribund state before the new administration comes into place? The policies of this government already made the election of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu almost impossible. Thank God for PO and everybody else. So now that the current president, which should be important right now, they've instituted the transition committee. The current president-elect does not want this policy. Please let it go. Please stop making Nigerians suffer. Nigerians have suffered enough with weak exchange rates in the first place, which is caused by the policies of this administration. Though not everybody in this administration, because even the vice president has been vocal about his opposition to that policy. But yeah, the administration has to own it. So please let Nigerians have access to their money. It is not even enough for them to spend in the first place. We have our own case in a court in Akure against the CBN. So if if they are not going to obey the Supreme Court, will they now obey a High Court? So what kind of a country do they want us to be living in Nigeria, where the people who should be living by the power of their example choose to be living by the example of their power?
Right.
I really don't get it. I'm a little bit discombobulated just thinking about it.
All right. Your group is advising that the president, as well as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, as well as the CBN governor, be held in contempt as a deterrence for future presidents. Do you see that happening? Are you confident that would happen?
Well, I am not going to tell a lie. I am not confident at all, because our democracy is still immature, and a lot of people need to have some guts to be able to do that. People need to have some courage. It is going to be a courageous move for that to be done. And we live in a country where people always try to prevaricate. They want to placate people. They don't want to offend people. Well, that's not really the way you get things done. People need to know. The court needs to earn its powers by holding them in contempt. I don't have confidence. I believe that the governors actually filed a case against the CBN governor and Attorney General for not obeying the interlocutory injunction. But I am not very hopeful, but I cannot say I will not advocate for it, because I believe it's not going to happen. I mean, if something is going to change, it's going to start on a day. The journey of 4,000 years will start with a step. So I believe that just by advocating for it and keeping on to talk about it, maybe it will make someone listening to think about doing that, including the legislators too. The legislators also have a role to play in this. I believe they can have a serious conversation. The Senate president can have a serious conversation with the president about the implications of not obeying the Supreme Court order, because the legislators are the only ones that have real power over the presidency, the executive arm of government. And even the CBN governor also, I mean, I don't know if it's in the Nigerian constitution because I'm not a lawyer, but I know in the United States, executive members who are confirmed by the Senate can also be impeached. So these are routes that the people in the legislative arm can do, because they are the only ones that have the force against the executive if the executive is going rogue, which is what I think is occurring right now. Because if an executive arm of government fails to obey the power of a co-equal branch of government, then that executive has gone rogue. So I believe that the legislators also need to come, and they have already made it clear, especially the APC legislators, and they are the majority in the House, in the Senate. So, and they've made it clear that they are not in support of this policy. So they should have a serious conversation with the president and let him know you don't want to go with an impeachment on your legacy 3 months to 3 or 4 months to the end of your administration. So please don't put us into a constitutional crisis. Obey the law, follow the instructions of the Supreme Court judges, and let's call it a day. The new administration has said they don't want this policy. They are clear about that. So I believe the only way that we can actually make a change is if the legislators decide to intervene, because they have the power in their numbers, because everybody is suffering right now. And it is just heartless, really. We don't need the president to apologize to us that he does not want to
Yeah.
come to harm. He should just do the right thing.
Yeah, do you think we are witnessing the impotence of law? It looks like we have reached the end of law in this matter. The Attorney General says that this monetary matter, that it doesn't concern himself with monetary matter, even though it was the one that first challenged it in court. It was not monetary matter then, but it's now monetary matter. The legislators say they want to react to it. They have been reacting, that's changed nothing. The Supreme Court has done what it cannot go. What it can do, it cannot go beyond giving an order. It doesn't have executive powers, and the president, who is supposed to change everything, is saying, "I can't change everything." Have we reached a situation where the law has become useless?
Yeah, that is what they are trying to, make it seem like. And thank God that we have a true Democrat who is the president-elect, who is a respecter of the rule of law, who even has been reported to have gone to the defense of an opposition when, I think the minister Fashola made mention of when he defended Ladoja, who was in PDP at the time. So he's a respecter of the law. So thank God that at least we can have a reversal of that. But I do believe that all of them, because it is you cannot predict what people, you cannot instruct people on what to do, but you can ensure that when they do something, what you do about whatever they do is what you can ensure. So I believe the Supreme Court, even if it's going to be toothless right now, needs to eventually hold everybody in contempt so that it goes on their record. So that if you Google President Muhammadu Buhari tomorrow on Wikipedia, on his Wikipedia page, you will see that he was held in contempt and sentenced to 3 months suspended sentence or whatever. That is going to be enough deterrence to make the next president think twice. I know that definitely the president-elect will not do it because he is a true Democrat. But people with that kind of a military kind of mindset, even if they were never military men, we know that they do not want that kind of a stain on their record. So they will refrain from it, because the legislators have always, and this is something that's always amazed me about our democracy. I know it's fledgling, it's young, it's in its nascent stage, but the legislators have always acted like stooges of the executive arm. I really don't even understand why they reconfirmed the current CBN governor for the second time in the first place. They had a right to advise and consent, but they did not do that. So, I mean, I'm not really optimistic, but I cannot let my optimism put me into total oblivion of pessimism. I would just definitely have to keep on advocating for the right thing to be done, like the senators who have the power over the executive should let the executive arm know that we are not going to stay silent with your disobedience of the rule of law. you are violating the Nigerian constitution. This is the gross misconduct, and it is a ground for impeachment. By the time the articles of impeachment start flying around and there's about to be a trial or whatever, the president is going to sit up. He's going to know that I can't do anything at this point. It was even, I mean, I was a little bit pissed when I saw the military men with their tanks on the streets of Nigeria prior to the election, like we are in Somalia or something. You know, it has been a lot of roguery in this current administration, but disobeying the Supreme Court just reminds me of a lot of, the history that I read during the Babangida, Buhari regime of the military regime. It's just so irking. It disgusts me. It makes me want to, throw up sometimes because I don't understand. People are suffering. You can see it. You are even apologizing for it. Don't apologize. Just don't. You are the one causing the suffering. I mean, I cannot be pinching someone and I'm saying sorry. I should just leave that person. I can't keep pinching them, or I can't be punching someone and telling the person sorry and keep punching them. No, just stop punching down on us. Stop bludgeoning us with this naira policy. Please, we beg you, President Muhammadu Buhari, let the people have their money. It is not even enough for them to spend in the first place. So please give them back their money. You have tried to stop election buying. You have succeeded. So please.
Okay. This policy originally, from the early statements of the CBN, was to curb excess liquidity in people's homes and vaults and people's pockets. And we also understand it was meant to curb corruption and so on. Do you think this policy has met its objective as stated by the CBN or the federal government initially?
No, it never was. It never did. It never was meant to do it. It never could have, actually, because when you're talking of excess liquidity and it was comparing the naira from 2014 to now without factoring the change in the exchange rates, the excess liquidity that he was talking about is not about the volume. It is about, and I know the man made a lot of that error, was saying people don't spend 50 pounds in the UK, that they only spend 20 pounds. Well, that 20 pounds is worth like 20,000 naira. It's just one paper. So, that is the mistake that has been making by comparing 1.46, which is worth like 47% more in 2014 with 3.23 trillion naira right now. So people have the power of the money in people's homes is less. They can do a lot less in it. The power of the money that is saying is in people's homes. So that policy was a non-starter from the get-go. So the fact that this was just a part of the gaslighting, because I believe this policy is exclusively political. It is exclusively political. They are trying to just cut through the chances of the only man who has vocally told the whole world that he's going to get rid of the opaque exchange rates because of the whole, I believe, round tripping that they've been benefiting from. Someone buys a dollar from the CBN, goes out to sell it within 30 seconds, you've made like 70% profit. There's no business in the world that will give you that amount of profit, and they can keep doing it over and over again. And there's just one man, which is the president-elect, that has said he's going to get rid of that. I believe it is exclusively political. If the CBN was telling the I think the diplomatic society, that it was trying to reduce velocity of money, like it was trying to put Nigeria into recession. You want to reduce money supply, but cash supply just represents about 6% of our money supply in the first place. So how are you reducing money supply by just taking private people of their cash? It does not make any sense. The people still transfer, people still have other forms of money. The only problem is that 16% of our GDP, according to one economist, is buy and sell that usually occurs with cash. And that is where majority of the masses are. And that is what the CBN governor has successfully impeded. People's businesses are disappearing by the day. People that sell perishable goods cannot find money for people to buy. So it never made any sense. It never was meant to succeed. So the CBN governor should know that the jig is up. The jig is up. So please, hands off. Whatever, maybe Otumoko or whatever you use to convince the president, take it out so that he can let people have their money back.
All right. That's a fine place to leave the conversation this morning. Dr. Marindoti Oludari, convener, Social Rehabilitation Grace and Support Initiative. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.